Hey guys, what's going on? In this tutorial, we're going to be talking about tuples. And I'm going to be explaining to you what tuples are, how are they used, what are they used for, and how they differ from lists. So let's just start with that statement right away. How does a tuple differ from a list? So if we go back to our original grocery list, we had a whole bunch of items in there. We had apples, and I'm just going to put 3 items in here just for fun. For simplicity, oranges and water. Now, the first difference with a list and a tuple comes from the fact that a tuple is actually something that is immutable. What that means is you can't actually change the items in a tuple. So if I were to redefine this grocery list and say instead of an actual list, this is going to be a tuple. And a tuple is denoted by putting parentheses around these items. So if I actually wanted to change apples to grapes, for example, in a list, we saw in the previous tutorial how we can do that. However, I actually can't change apples in a tuple. I can't change oranges nor water. I can pull them, but I can't change them. So then you may ask yourself, well, why would I ever want to use a tuple? Tuples are really good to use when you actually don't want to change things in there. So a good example of a tuple would be a birthday. Right? So if I wanted to print the month, 12, and I wanted to print the day, 01, and I want to print the year 85 or something like that. Birthdays are not going to change. So this is actually a good reason why you may want to use a tuple, because as you go down in your code, you may risk the chance of accidentally changing something if you were to put this as a list, when in fact you want to keep this as a tuple. So to access the values of a tuple is actually very similar to accessing that of a list. So if I want to say print and I want to say birthday, I just want to hit the first item in the tuple, and that is the first index item. I just hit print, and I get an error. Well, there's actually something interesting here. You can't actually start a tuple off with a 0, because in Python, 0, 1 is treated the same way as 1. So it doesn't understand why there's a 0 in front of the 1. So we have to erase that, rerun the command, and now you can pull 12. If I wanted to pull the second command, or the second item in the tuple, I can just hit 1. Now let's say for whatever reason you did want to have that as 0, 1, you can simply just change that over to 0, 1 using a string item, reprint it, and now you get 0, 1 out of the tuple. So now let's say I actually wanted to change the tuple item. Remember I said tuples are immutable, while grocery lists, you can actually change around. Now in a list function, if I wanted to change the first item, recall from the previous tutorial, I just say grocery item 0 is equal to grapes. And then when I reprint the grocery list, now it's going to change out to grapes, oranges, and water. Well, what if I actually tried to do that to the tuple? Let's see what happens. And I rename the tuple so I don't get the 2 confused. But if I say grocery list 2 item 0, instead of 12, I want that to be 5. Now when I try to print grocery list 2, it's going to say tuple object does not support item assignment. And what that means is I can't actually go and change an item in a tuple. Now, what you can do is if I wanted to, I can delete the entire tuple. And the way to do that is I just say delete grocery list 2. And when I try to print grocery list again, it's going to say grocery list 2 is not defined because it's actually been deleted. So far, if you were to compare the two, I can add items to a list, I can remove items from a list, I can change items from a list. But I can't do any of those with a tuple. Now, I actually didn't show you this other thing in the previous tutorial with lists, so I'll show you that here. And I'll show you that the same function works with tuples as well, and that's called concatenation. So let's just say I had a grocery list, and I decided that I have a new list, a new list. We'll just call it a new list. And I got a call from home saying, grab some watermelon and grab some cookies. Now, I could go in and I can update this list, because remember, lists are updatable, they're changeable. Or I can just say, hey, my updated list is equal to my grocery list plus my new list. And what that does is it'll concatenate the two lists together and create a new list for you. So let's see what that looks like. Print updated list. So here you'll actually see of apple, oranges, water, watermelon, and cookies, which is this first print statement up here. Okay, so let's just get rid of these for now to avoid confusion. And there you go. Now, the question is, can I actually do that with tuples as well? Let's find out. So let's say I added the same new list as a tuple. I should have two lists that are the same. So although I can't actually go and amend individual items within a tuple, I can, however, add items to a tuple. Now we're going to use this updated list, and I should probably just call this tuple to make things easier. So I'll call this grocery tuple. And there we go. So now there's no confusion. And the two are the same in fact. Now, very similar to lists, if I wanted to get the length, the number of items in this list, I would just do print length updated list. And that would tell me that there's 5 items in this. And the question is, can I do that with a tuple as well? That you can. So there's a lot of similarities between lists and tuples again. Tuples are also really cool in the sense that there's a function called unpacking. So let me tell you what unpacking means. So for example, if I made up a tuple called items is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Tuples has a cool feature called unpacking. And what that means is, let's say I wanted to set, say, X, Y, Z, and A for fun is equal to items. And now what this is going to do is this is going to say X is equal to 1, Y is equal to 2, Z is equal to 3, A is equal to 4. So let's test that out. So let's print A and see what we get. Oh, I got an error because I forgot to put a comma there. But now it's basically going to say, so let's comment on all of this stuff up here for now. It's going to say that A is equal to 4. Let's say I said print Y. Y is equal to 2. So what we've essentially done is we've taken these variables and we've unpacked them to their respective variables. These items, or these numbers, we've unpacked them to their respective items. And the last thing I'll walk you through tuples on is, let's say I have a different type of variable. I have items is equal to, let's just say we're going to call it star. So it's star and it's £, or hashtag, whatever you want to call it. We'll say X, Y is equal to items. And now we can actually do something cool and say print X. Now I can say multiply 6. And of course, I forgot to put these in single quotes here. Probably want to do that because it's going to think it's a number, but it's really not a number, so we have to fix that. So times 6. And of course, I've got to put this entire print function in brackets, and it'll give me 6 stars. So you can actually do some fun stuff if you wanted. You can draw out patterns here. You know, I could do something like this. 5, oops. And, you know, the better way to do this would be to write this in a looping function, but that's for another time. But, you know, just something fun like this. And you can do like little shapes or patterns or whatever. If you go online, they actually have on Google, if you just do a search on Python shapes, you'll actually find that people have pre-printed patterns, and it'll actually say out some funny words out there. So this was a very quick example of tuples, and next I think we're going to move into something a little bit more fun, so stay tuned for that.